Hi everybody, my name is Lori. I'm 58 years old. I lost my husband to colon cancer on November 2nd, 2017 after a 15-month battle. Um, he started losing weight drastically. That was the main symptom that led us to believe that something was wrong. He was diagnosed on July 29th, 2016, and he fought that battle for 15 months. I want to start this channel and help other women who are either in the colon cancer battle with their husband or their significant other, or have already become a widow due to colon cancer. I know that women and men lose their spouses to many other kinds of cancer, but my experience with colon cancer is what leads me to want to do this YouTube, because I want to be able to help other women who are going through this struggle so that you can understand that you're not alone. When Bob got the diagnosis of cancer, our world shattered. Him and I were married for 11 and a half years. We both have a Harley. We rode thousands of miles together. He was my best friend. He was my lover. He was my soulmate. He was everything to me. Before I met Bob, I had never been in a positive relationship with a man. I grew up with severe abandonment issues in a dysfunctional family, and I jumped from one negative relationship to the next. And when I finally met Bob, he just loved me so unconditionally that I was just amazingly blessed. He was a gift to me. The whole time he was sick, I didn't understand any of the reasons why this was happening to us. We had finally both found the love of our lives. We were so happily married, and I expected to spend the rest of my life with him. Starting with the day that he was diagnosed, we went in to see the gastroenterologist, and they had suspected cirrhosis of the liver. And when the doctor came in, he said, the good news is you don't have cirrhosis of the liver, but the bad news is you have stage 4 terminal colon cancer. So, needless to say, I wanted to punch that doctor in the throat. He had no bedside manner. My husband and I were just floored. My husband, Bob, asked the doctor if there was any way that he could beat this, and the doctor just sat down in a chair and hung his head and said, "I'm sorry." And he abruptly got up, left the office, and left us to leave the urgent care with a diagnosis of terminal colon cancer. So, needless to say, our world was rocked. You step from one moment to the next. You try to figure out what you're supposed to do, because most people think that cancer is not gonna it's not gonna happen to them, and I didn't believe it was gonna happen to us. Bob and I, during the 11 and a half years that we were married, we cared for his mother and father. When I met Bob, his parents were in their 70s, and they needed a lot of care. Not so much personal care, but all their grocery shopping, bill paying, doctors. They didn't drive, so we took them to their doctor's appointments, so on and so forth. And I lost my father-in-law in January of 2015. Lost my mother-in-law in May of 2016, and 82 days after she died, my husband was diagnosed with terminal colon cancer, and I lost him 15 months later. So my whole family, my husband and his parents, were the only family that I have here in California, and they all three died within a very short period of time. And as you can imagine, my life shattered. When my husband died, I can't even describe to you the kind of pain that I felt. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. I pray that no one ever gets to experience that, but I know that People are struggling and dying from cancer every day, and I urge everybody, please, please go get your colonoscopy. It's not that big of a deal. My husband had never had one, and colon cancer is very curable if caught in the early stages. But unfortunately, when Bob was diagnosed, the cancer had already metastasized to his liver, and there was very little they could do for him. Now, I have to say that they did refer him to the City of Hope, which I was extremely excited about because I felt like he was going to be in the best of hands at the City of Hope. And at first, I believed that to be true. Even though he was diagnosed terminal, the first time we went to City of Hope, they told us that if he did chemotherapy, that he could live up to 2 years, and without the chemotherapy, he would die within 2 months. So given that option, I believe that almost anybody would say, I'll take the chemotherapy. In hindsight, the chemotherapy destroyed my husband. He withered away. I don't know if he would have died any sooner without the chemotherapy, but I think that his quality of life, no matter how short it would have been better than it was with the chemotherapy. He wound up having to have a colonoscopy, or not a colonoscopy, I apologize. He had, in July he was diagnosed. In October of 2016, he had a full blockage in his colon, and he had to have a colostomy bag, which to him and to me was horrifying. Neither one of us had ever experienced that or knew anybody that had that. And I'm here to reassure you that it is not as terrible as people make it out to be. My husband, personally, because he had lost 50 pounds and now he was supporting a colostomy bag, he was devastated. He felt demasculated, and he just could barely look at me anymore. And to be honest with you, this was a man who never, ever took his eyes off of me. He always watched me. He was always looking at me. Every time I looked at him, his eyes were just filled with love for me. So to have him not be able to look at me was heartbreaking. But for anybody who's got to deal with a colostomy, if you have any questions, I learned so many things, which I'm so grateful about. And of course, when that diagnosis came, because I have no family here in Texas or in California, my daughters and grandkids live in Texas, I had no one. And, when we are in times of trial, of sadness, of heartbreak, there's one place that we can go to get the comfort, and one place only, and that is to seek Jesus. And I fell to my knees, and I just begged Jesus to help guide me through the future, whatever that held. And the more I reached for Christ, the more he reached back for me. And even though my husband was dying from cancer, I was filled with peace because Jesus Christ led me through every step of the way. And since my husband died, he still leads me through every step of the way. And there is hope. There is life. You will survive it. You may not feel like it. When my husband died, I collapsed. I fell on the floor in the hospital. I don't even remember the details. And then to go home that first night, knowing that I was never, ever going to see my husband again. Now, I am a Christian, so I do believe that I will see him again. But it's nothing. I thought that during the 15 months that he battled, that I was going to be able to handle whatever happened. And obviously here I am 2 years later, and I handled it, but I guess I felt like I could prepare myself. And the only thing that helped prepare me was the Word. Jesus Christ is the only thing that helped me. I cried. I screamed. I had a room in my house that I would just go into, and I would just sob, and I would pray, and I would worship, and I would do whatever I had to do to keep my sanity so that I could step out of that bedroom and come in and give my husband the most loving care that I could give. Now, I'm not going to lie, during the 11 and a half years that Bob and I were married, taking care of his elderly parents was extremely difficult. And I took my husband for granted, and I would take out my frustration over his parents on him. And I'm here to tell you now, if you have a husband and or a wife, whatever the case may be, cherish them, treasure them. If you love your spouse, don't take them for granted, because your life can change in the flash of a second. And my life did. And I wanted to die. I really wanted to die when my husband died. I didn't know how I would function, how I would manage, what would I do. I was so alone. And even though there's people in the world that are your friends or family or what have you, when it's all said and done, you are alone. You're the one who's fighting to survive after you've lost the person that you love more than anything in the world. And Jesus Christ was my Savior. On the nights when I curled up in this bed by myself, just broken, and I didn't want to get up, I didn't want to eat, I didn't want to do anything, I just wanted to die. In that darkest place, I felt the hand of Jesus upon me as he pulled me out of that darkness. I could see the light. And I'm here to tell you, 2 years later, almost 2 years later, although I miss my husband every single day, I'm still surviving, and I'm thriving, and I'm happy. I miss my husband. I miss him desperately, but he changed me. He made me a better woman. He is part of me. He will always be part of me. He made me who I am today. The experience of his cancer and his death has made me the woman that I am today, and all of those things are gifts to me. Because without that experience, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And he taught me to love myself. And, you know, there's so much more to this story, and I would love to share more details with anybody who is seeking help. Please comment below. Reach out to me. I'll post more videos. If you have any questions specifically, please ask and let me know, and I will answer your questions. I'll check back on a daily basis, and I will do whatever I can to help anybody who's struggling with a spouse that is dying of cancer. And I just wish you all the best, and I am here to share and care with anybody who wants to listen. So take care and good night.